Help, I'm stepping into the twilight zone. This place is a madhouse, feels like being cloned. My beacon's been moved under moon and star. Where am I to go now that I've gone too far? Soon you will come to know when the bullet hits the bone. This is the Community Solutions Podcast. Jason Bradley and Richter from deep in the bowels of our underground lair, where our average is a lot better than that of the Minnesota Twins. I'll tell you what. How you doing?
Yeah, we definitely are successful more than they are.
Yes.
Whatever place they're in this weak-ass division they're in, okay, their batting average still stuck. I'm old school when it comes to baseball, Jay.
Well, we've won a few championships.
Yeah, a long time ago.
We've won a few championships. Yes.
Yeah, we've been gooder than they have.
Yes, absolutely.
But I'll tell you this much. The Twins are like the Wild. They'll keep me interested long enough just to tick me off.
Exactly. And the
like
Vikings too.
The Queens, your team.
How does every team in the state do that? It's like, we're going to stay competitive, and then it's like,
okay, when your goal is not to win a championship,
right?
Your goal is to just be good enough to keep people interested. Then you're going to be in purgatory forever.
I don't know if that's their actual goal.
I don't know. I don't hear anybody in the Minnesota Twins talking about winning a World Series. Last time I heard that, Andy McPhail was the GM. It's been a long time. So nobody talks about winning a championship. It's all about being competitive and keeping money at a certain level.
Well,
so the poll ads and their $5 billion isn't enough. So, all the money they're donating to end racism. So anyhow, look, I know the song. I'm not 100% sure I know who sings it, though.
Okay.
I want to say it's Golden Earring, but
yes.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Twilight Zone by Golden Earring. Nicely done.
Don't ask how I figured that out.
Nicely done.
Yeah. Okay. Good. One in a row. 55 till DiMaggio. So by next year sometime, maybe I'll be close. I doubt it, but maybe.
That's good.
Jay, I got a question for you.
Yes.
We've had all this talk about gun control here, and I would encourage people not to plug my own show, but when I had Rob Dorr on from the Minnesota Gun Caucus last year, talking about gun laws, I constantly listen to people saying stuff, and I know they have no idea what they're talking about.
Yeah.
I know they saw something on CNN, and they're just repeating it, or some knucklehead politician said it, and they're just being a talking head. Sorry, but that happens a lot. It happens on both sides, to be honest.
Yeah.
I want to encourage people to listen to that show that I had Rob on. Rob explains what a red flag law is. He explains all this stuff, all this crap that you hear, and nobody tells you what it does or anything like that. But here's what I want to ask you. Okay, the President of the United States has been a gun control advocate his entire life. Okay?
Yes.
Yeah, we just sent $40 billion of weapons to Ukraine.
Yeah.
Now, I'd like to know what guns we sent them. What happens if they're used in a school shooting? What happens if the Russians get them? Is there any accounting of the weapons I paid for that are now sent to help another country fight another country?
No.
$40 billion. Now, to put that in perspective, the entire budget in Minnesota is $53 billion. We damn near sent that to Ukraine.
Right.
Okay, a country where the president just happens to somehow have become a millionaire. I don't know how that happened since he hasn't done squat his whole life but work in government. So, what?
Oh, that's not true. He's an actor.
Who, Biden?
Oh, our president. Sorry,
Yeah,
I thought
our
you
president.
meant theirs. Okay.
No, not
Zelensky.
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
Gesundheit.
Yes.
So, I'd like an accounting of what weapons were sent. I want know if those guns were registered. I want to know what hands they end up in.
They can't be anyone that's 18, I'll tell you that.
That's right. Are they 21 or older?
I don't know.
They're red flag law if some fighting breaks out. And I'm being kind of a smartass, but I'm also saying no one cares about what we send overseas. Nobody cares. Nobody in Washington cares. Nobody in the media cares. I want an accounting of where my, if I'm off by $10 on my filing my taxes, somebody can come after me.
Right.
And hey, government, I'm off by more than that. Come get me, you son of a bitches. You're not going to get me for nothing. Okay. But let me just say this. I want to know what weapons those were. I want to know because I'm all for gun control. I break with the right on this. I'm for gun control. I just want government to give them up too. But that's fair.
Well,
Don't tell me the president needs AK. Don't tell me the president needs rocket launchers to protect himself, but I can't have a handgun. Okay.
Well,
so
here's the problem: you'd still have criminals coming from Chicago or wherever that would be armed.
That's
even
the thing.
If the government gave up theirs. So.
Yeah, the government and the criminals, which most of the time are the same people,
Yeah,
they're the
more or
only
less.
people would have assault weapons, huh?
Yeah.
Is that what we're calling assault weapons?
It's
You know
funny
what?
because the AR was actually created back in the 1950s as a hunting rifle.
Yeah, but
and then the military adopted it.
They refined it though. They've changed it since then. But
Yeah, but I mean,
everything's made better, and that's
Everything
innovation. That's innovation.
yeah, if it's old and yucky, it goes away because
it's-
something better replaces
It's
it.
a musket that sits in somebody's shed. Look,
Yeah.
the nuclear bombs that our government has are better than the ones we dropped on Japan in 1945.
Oh, absolutely.
We've improved them. Okay, so but here's the thing. I'm amazed how, and of course, Republicans in Washington are caving as they always do.
Yeah.
They've struck a deal on some. I don't even want to read it. I don't want to look at it. John Cornyn was on some show trying to explain. I grabbed the mute button as fast as I could. Let me tell you something. If you think a law is going to stop the next. By the way, why does the Constitution not apply to you if you're 18, 19, or 20? I'm kind of curious why not. Same people want 16-year-olds to vote, want to make it 21 to shoot a gun.
But yet, they're more than happy to put a gun in their hands and send them overseas to.
Of course they are.
Of course they are.
Who else they gonna brainwash to send over there? You?
No, but I wouldn't make
You're
it a day.
brainwashed enough.
I wouldn't make it a day. Let me tell you
I'd
what.
love to see you at basic training, Jay. When's lunchtime?
Yeah, it would be like I'm trying to remember the movie where.
No, it'd be Biloxi Blues or something, wouldn't it?
It would be bad.
Which one had Private Piles? Which
I
one
don't
was that?
remember.
Okay. Yeah, somebody in the peanut gallery could look that up. I don't know, but
Yeah, it would be bad.
but I want an accounting of the weapons that were sent over there. What if they land in the hands of the Russians now? We've been told through the fear machine that the Russians allegedly have all these nuclear weapons we can't account for, as if we can believe them.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, and here's
I
the
have a hard
other
enough
thing.
time believing our government.
Yeah, we're sending them money. I mean, do we really know that they're resulting in weapons, or are they resulting in?
Is there a country we don't send money to?
Because we know this is the case with Ukraine, that it's not exactly like the most upright, upstanding country on earth.
No, I mean,
and so how much of that ends up in people's
Neither are
pockets?
we.
And I'm not saying that specifically about any specific politician over there. And
No, but
obviously,
there's-
with what's going on, I want them to win. I want fairly well-known problem with them kind of lining their pockets.
a certain percentage of it is gone, is lost.
Right.
Certain percentage of it will end up being buried in Fort whatever. I
Yeah.
mean, no doubt about it.
But I mean,
Look
we
at all the
knew
money
how much.
Look at all the money we send to Africa. How much of that is ripped off by the king of Libya or Niger or whatever? I mean, all they do is line their own pockets with
That's
it.
true.
And people like Joe Biden just keep cutting checks.
Yeah.
They're not awake enough to know what they're doing,
Well,
or they don't care.
He
They
does
don't
the same
care.
thing. That's why. I mean, he sends Hunter to go get money. Hunter goes, gets money, and puts it in Joe
That's the-
Biden's
the
pocket.
only thing he
It's the
can
same
do.
thing.
I
Same
mean, maybe
thing.
Hunter Biden's not as the incompetent boob we think he is. Maybe he isn't. Maybe he's smarter than we give him credit for.
Really?
It's possible.
Huh.
I mean, to me, you talk about the big guy. I mean, to me, he's found a way to weasel his way in, line his own pockets, line other people's pockets. Hey, look, I got a certain amount of respect for that.
Yeah?
You know, I mean, he's taking care of himself, you know, and screwing everybody else. He fits in perfect over in that area, you know. I mean, I don't know. It's just amazes me how cavalierly we take $40 billion. I mean, stop and think about how much you're paying for gas and how much you're paying for groceries and how much you're paying for rent or whatever. And our government just couldn't care less. They're doing nothing about it. Joe Biden probably hasn't went to the grocery store since like the Coolidge administration. And he just, all he cares about are his buddies in Ukraine.
Yeah.
And that goes for Congress. That goes for the Republicans, the neocons who are out there with him. They all supported Biden.
Absolutely, they did.
I mean, this one. Say what you want about Donald Trump. I don't think this would be happening if he were
absolutely
president.
not. He wasn't a war hawk.
And by the way,
But yet you've got all these Republicans that are.
And I'd like to say something too about that. If Trump was so, he was so with Putin. Why did Putin invade when Trump was president?
Right.
Trump
he
would
waited.
have let him, right?
Yeah.
That's what we're told. Yet, strangely, when somebody else comes in, that's when the Russians make a move. Mm-hmm. So I always find that interesting. He's all chummy with Putin. Yet Putin didn't do squat when Trump was president. 4 years, he sat there and did nothing. Remember, before that, where did they go before that when Obama was president? Did they... there was another place that they, I don't want to say invaded, they tried to or something, but like I said, with Trump as president, he didn't do anything.
Yeah.
But now all of a sudden, it's something different. So I demand, if the IRS can knock on my front door and demand to account for, all couple grand I've got in my savings account, I want to know where my $40 billion went. I want Zelensky in front of Congress under oath. Actually, I don't want Congress there because they won't ask the right questions.
No.
I want an independent prosecutor, not in Washington. I want a forensic accountant telling me where that money went.
Good luck on that one.
Take that, CFR.
Although we seem to know exactly what we left in Afghanistan.
Yeah.
You
mean what's in the possession of our enemies now?
Yes, that's exactly what I mean. Yeah, we seem to know exactly what got left there.
30 million guys named Muhammad, and we all know what they've got, but we don't have any idea what we just sent to Ukraine. All right.
Yes.
Can you just tell our federal government
Yeah.
I don't want to say what I really think because I just can't do it without four-letter words. I'm just gonna punt it. That's a four-letter word, punt. I'm just gonna punt it. Why bother? What's it matter? Nothing's gonna change. Nothing ever changes. And if somebody tries to change it, we all know what happens to them. So,
yeah. You mean the Clintons deep six them? Is that what you're talking about? Sorry.
Let me tell you something. I don't dismiss that stuff. I'll tell you what. What I've found in my life, the more outlandish the theory, the more likely it's true.
Well,
there was a time where nobody believed in Operation Paperclip. Nobody believed in, things like that. We all find out now that they were the truth. Nobody believed in the Bilderbergs. Nobody believed in, and all of a sudden, 30 years later, I guess they weren't so crazy.
Right.
So the more crazy it is, the more credibility I kind of give it. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I know you're as crazy as I am. I just come off crazier. But Jay, I'll tell you what.
Yeah.
I'll tell you something that's really, really important to local government here, and we'll shift back to our main focus here. Something really important to local government is zoning.
Oh, they love zoning.
In the danger zone. Macho Man used to say that all the time.
Oh, yeah, he did.
It's going to be a bad time for you guys in the danger zone. So, here's the thing. That impression made me cough here.
That's a hard one to do, yeah.
I know. It's not as easy as like Dusty, Just the baby, I got this idea. You got to go talk to him in Texas. No. Here's the thing. Zoning is so boring. It's so monotonous. It's so elementary to a local government. But Jay, zoning is under attack. And I'm going to tell you something. I don't completely defend local government on this either. I don't know what to think about what we're going to talk about because I there's so many things local government's doing that I hate.
Yeah.
Okay, and I think that are wrong. I don't think the fix is a one-size-fits-all answer from the federal or state government, but something has to change here. And we can't wait 25 years for another crew to get elected in a city somewhere. Something has to happen to change the trend of what's going on everywhere.
Yeah.
Okay? So zoning is one of the most basic elements that a city does, Jay. They look at land in city limits and they zone it for something. Residential, commercial, industrial, agricultural, whatever that case, somebody is there zoning that land. Mm-hmm. And then there's stuff that breaks down. I learned a lot of this on the Planning Commission in Crystal about how this is broken down and what the differences are. But we don't need to go too much in the weeds here. But residential, to me, is the most important. The housing. Yeah. And many places have a 1, a 2, or a 3. Okay? R1 is low density. R2 is medium density. R3 is high density. Now, how they define that has also been a problem because you're allowed. I mean, I don't know what stops anybody. I don't know that there's any laws that change how you define it. It's lots per acre, I believe, is the standard for how you zone things. And they kind of have a window there. And I don't know that there's some rule about what those windows are exactly. You know, how many quote unquote lots can be on an acre. Typically, the single family housing is R1. Medium density is like detached townhomes or something like that. Mm-hmm. Although they're effing with that, cities been screwing with that recently because they know certain people don't like things labeled high density. And of course, high density would be apartments. It would be, you know, the crammed in developments or whatever you want to call them.
Yeah.
And there's been a lot of talk about the state and federal governments coming in and trying to force changes on this stuff.
Of course.
And it's pretty scary. I mean, like I said, I'm not all for what some cities are doing, but sometimes having the top-down solution is even worse than what Minneapolis is doing. Minneapolis is like up there with Portland and Seattle as some of the worst ideas in cities you could possibly come up with. Yeah. It's pretty tough to beat those 3 cities in bad ideas.
Yeah.
Pretty difficult.
I would agree. All 3 of them seem to have no end to the bad ideas.
I mean, it's bad, worse, worser, worsest.
Worserist.
Worsherists, Worshire sauce, whatever you want to call it. It's BAD, bad, GAROSS, gross. Okay? So
yes.
So the Build Back Gooder legislation, Jay. Build Back Gooder. I can't even believe I'm saying this, but the President of the United States, will bring him up again, Sleepy, and his HUD department.
Yeah.
As well as the transportation, Pete Buttigieg and the transportation department, started this racist highways. You and I did a podcast on that.
Yes. Single-family
homes have now been labeled as racist by this administration.
Yeah.
That it's racist to it's exclusionary for cities to require, and the state of Minnesota has jumped on this as well, and we'll get to that in a sec.
Yeah.
That often what cities will do is they will set minimums and maximums. For example, you want to build a new house. Mm-hmm. Okay, there's a minimum square footage and a maximum square footage.
Okay.
There's a number of permits that are needed. And some of them, I'm going to tell you, the state has screwed with this because they have added stuff that make houses more expensive, like fire protection and things like that have, the sewage and the Met Council's in charge of all that. So they've contributed to these, that all jacks up the cost. Okay. And there are efforts to do away with these things because these houses are too expensive.
Yeah.
Of course, the government, instead of fixing monetary policy, instead of cutting spending, of course they don't do that. They try to end the authority of cities to do their own zoning. And of course, it's racist because the minorities can't afford it now.
I don't agree with that one bit.
I think that there's no more pig-headed statement than that, personally.
Yeah. Oh, you're a minority. You are not good enough to be able to have a good job and get a house, a single-family home out in the suburbs. I guarantee you there are many people of every color, stripe, creed that live out in the suburbs in single-family homes.
They're everywhere.
Yes.
I mean, with my job, okay, I go to cities that are very small, cities that are, I won't say what I do, but it is a lie perpetuated by activists who want to implement socialism. I mean, they want to redistribute wealth, and they want to use race as a reason to do it, just like they use the climate.
It's the Great Reset. You'll own nothing and be happy. They want everybody to be in medium or high density housing.
Right, and you can be controlled. You can get you out of your car, get you onto public transit. Make sure you shop at this place and that place and that place, and that those people. And I'm on a site called route-50.com.
Okay.
$1.6 billion, once again, to spur local zoning reforms. I love how it's called reforms. The president calls it updates. They're all updates. The Department of Housing and Urban Development will issue competitive grants to cities who want to update their zoning codes and housing action plans. Essentially, the program would help cities pay for new policy documents that will guide their future development to promote new housing supply and more diverse neighborhoods. See, these things have a racist origin, Jay, because
yes,
single-family zoning establishes minimum lot sizes, and they're used to create exclusively white neighborhoods.
Exclusively white, huh?
So there's signs up in the neighborhood saying whites only.
Oh, okay. Let me tell you this. I'm not going to say exactly where I live, but I own a home, a single-family home. How racist of me, right? Except
you bastard.
The neighbor to my one side is African American. The neighbor behind me is African, an African immigrant. And yes, black African, not like, a white South African. Elon Musk doesn't live behind me. Here in my posh
F.W. de Klerk. Yeah. Did he retire to Crystal?
So it's.
I think it's BS too.
Yeah,
total BS. I think again, the idea that a minimum lot size is somehow racist. We're gonna build a single family home. Okay, yeah. With 3 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms, and somehow that's racist.
Yep.
I mean, it's beyond silly. But it's amazing how many people take this or don't challenge it. So let me back up a second. So these zoning laws are largely under local control. Now, there are negatives to that. Okay? And I'm not going to sit here, and I know it would be proper of me to say, well, the government closest to you is the best and the blah, blah, blah. Well, but the truth is they don't all act in the best faith.
Right.
Okay? And like I say, I'm an advocate that something has to be done here to protect the consumer. All these governments, Jay, all of these cities talk about affordable housing.
Yes, they do.
Yet they do everything they can to make housing more unaffordable. And nowhere do you see it more than our friend, the city of New Hope.
Oh, and you do see this everywhere. How many cities allow ramblers and starter homes to be built? They don't allow it. They bring in the contractors that are wanting to build the big old McMansions, and
Now there's a two-way street there too. Many of those contractors
won't build them.
Won't build them.
Yeah.
See, that's another issue that I think we have an oligopoly of contractors. There's not. When the housing bubble crashed in 2008, so many smaller companies got eaten up that I don't think there are a lot of contractors out there willing to they want to maximize everything that they can too.
Yeah.
So I think that there's the give and take there, but I'll tell you what, you look at what New Hope's doing, and there are other cities doing this too. This made Channel 5. Channel 5 was not critical of this. They glowingly talked about how New Hope's screwing over the residents there. They are openly doing what Crystal was doing prior to Mayor Adams and the current council.
Yeah.
They are buying up properties, tearing down starter homes, and building McMansions. They're calling them step-up homes. And I know where that came from. It came from a think tank in Washington or something like that. It's a step-up home.
Yeah.
So you have the 1960s Ramblers, and then in the middle of that, you have Downton Abbey.
Yeah.
Okay.
Step up from what? There's nothing to step up from because you're getting rid of them all.
But New Hope at the same time, they're in every program from livable communities to
right.
Blah 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 about and they're doing it and they openly say that they're doing it to get more tax money.
Absolutely.
They openly say it. So all of these cities who talk about affordable housing are trying to develop new housing and to the point where it enriches them too.
Right.
So it's kind of like, as much as I want St. Paul and Washington to be so far away from me that I never hear of them again. At the same time, they're not all wrong in what they're saying. They're wrong in the solution, but they're not wrong in what they're saying about how homes are becoming more unaffordable, how it is they're jacking up the prices everywhere, and they're making it more difficult for young families and for middle-class people to own a home.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I don't see them providing solutions that are going to correct that problem.
They wouldn't know a good solution if it bit them in the ass. Can we just say that? If it ran them over, they wouldn't know a good one.
Just did. So.
Yeah. I mean, my only thinking on it is that it can get these. Something has to be done on the developer end, too. Something has to be done about a city has to come along and say, no, we don't want McMansions. Some of these cities only use one developer.
True.
And then one of the things that the state has been pushing is competitive bids, which they don't have to do.
Right.
There's no law that says they got to do that. They can take one proposal from any, which you could never do in the real world.
Right.
Yeah, and okay. You're the guys. Yeah. This is your city. It's like picking one garbage hauler. I mean, they can do it.
It boggles my mind. It's.
I mean, in a perfect world, and we're going to get to what Minnesota's trying to do in this because, quite frankly, I mean, I'm at a loss for what's going on here in Minnesota. But the philosophical person in me is like, well, local control is always best.
Yeah. I think in most cases that's true. Or maybe it's not local enough. Maybe it needs to get more local. Maybe that's the solution. When the city starts screwing it up, it should go to the individual in a lot of cases. Because, I don't think in most cases federal and state governments have the answer. In a one-size-fits-all solution, like you said, that's just not anything that, you know what I mean? It's it is almost never going to work the same for people in Minneapolis as it is for people in Mountain Iron. You know, it's a different environment, and I know, like in this article here that we were talking about, Oregon was going to be getting rid of, you know, the zoning laws like Minneapolis as far as where you want to put fourplexes and stuff like that, except in the smallest cities. So, but we know the direction of progressivism, and that may be the current stop on the train. But when that train starts up again, it's going to go after smaller cities and smaller cities.
And also keep in mind that what happens is some of the people who don't like this stuff are going to move to those cities.
Yeah.
And then those cities will become bigger.
Yeah.
And then, or they'll change the rules. And what happens?
Yeah.
Same crap goes everywhere. It's kind of like a complete street or a roundabout or a bike path.
Yeah.
It just follows you everywhere. You can't get rid of it no matter what. You can try and run and run and run. And by the way, I want to find out. This is a project I'm going to give to you.
Oh, thanks.
I want to know the first city in the United States to approve a roundabout. So I can go to their city council, parachute in, and tell them what I think about what they've started. I'm giving you that assignment.
Okay.
So I want your homework done by the next show.
All right.
Here in Minnesota.
My goodness. What?
I don't even know where to start with this knucklehead. I'm going to MinnesotaReformer.com, and we're going to go to March 22nd, 2022. And I'll tell you what, I do not like what the League of Minnesota Cities is doing either with this. Now, you'd think I'd side with them.
Yeah.
Okay, but I don't.
Okay.
91 city councils across Minnesota have voiced their opposition to a bipartisan bill. Of course, Republicans, of course, have signed. If it's a bad idea, I guarantee you they're there as well.
Yep.
That supporters will say brings down the cost of construction by overriding local zoning restrictions. Now, with inflation going on right now, that first statement is a lie. Nothing will bring down the cost. You got building materials and labor and all that stuff. Those costs ain't going down.
Yes.
So that's bull right away. To whoever wrote this is already full of crap. The League of Minnesota Cities, a trade group for cities. What are they all, carpenters? They're a trade group? They're an advocacy organization. That's what they are. Created a template resolution for cities to pass declaring they oppose legislation that restricts the ability for local elected officials to respond to the needs of their community. Again, stupid resolution. That is not what's at stake here. It is specific to zoning, and housing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so a generic resolution, the needs of their communities. No, that's not what's going on. I mean, It's not. It's they are trying to take away the city's ability to create their own zoning laws, zoning restrictions, and zoning, whatever you call it, quadrants.
Right.
Okay? Now, that's important to add to that, don't you think?
Yeah, I think so.
Again, League of Minnesota Cities is advocating a one-size-fits-all.
Of course they are.
If I'm sitting there at a city, I'm like, well, what the hell is this? That doesn't say anything. The opposition is a major challenge to Representative Steve Elkins,
Okay.
DFL Bloomington, who authorized what he's calling the Legalizing Affordable Housing Act. I guess affordable housing is illegal.
Oh my goodness. Really?
House File 3256. Imagine how many bills that is.
Yeah.
3256, all thrown in an omnibus bill, I'm sure, would discard zoning rules like requiring a minimum quarter-acre lot or more for a single-family home, which suburban communities have used to create upscale communities leading to extreme wealth and racial segregation. Now, let me ask you a question. Do you think there's some truth behind that? Because I'm going to say yes. I'm going to say that some cities have used zoning laws to create upscale communities. I think that's true.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think so. It's why you don't see a slum right next to a mansion.
Yeah, you don't see duplexes in Wayzata, do you? I mean,
right.
There is a little truth behind that. You see every other trendy thing.
Right.
But you don't see a homeless shelter in the middle of Edina. You don't see that. Okay? So there's as when I first read that statement, I rolled my eyes and I'm like, oh, that's everything but then I thought, you know what? I don't know. I don't think it's racial, by the way. I disagree with that. But I think there is some truth behind that there are upscale communities. There are cities that have a lot of McMansions. There are places that the average person can't move to. It's just the truth.
Yeah.
There probably always have been.
Yeah. I mean, no offense. You and I are not going to be able to afford to go out into some of those places in Medina where...
Well, speak for yourself. But
they're building $2+ million homes. I will probably never live on Lake Minnetonka.
Nor would you want to.
Well, that's true as well.
You're going to live on a lake. That's not the lake I would pick. I'm just saying.
No.
Yeah. Oh, no. I mean, no doubt about it. Neither will millions of others.
Right.
I mean, so... But I also question whether... I mean... How many gated communities are there in California where actors live and
all of them? Yeah.
Professional athletes. Yeah. I mean, it's sort of like they want to spend $5 million on a home.
Yeah.
Often they have them built. I mean, what are you going to do? Bill Gates wants to build 20 mansions.
Yeah.
And he's paying for it. I don't know what are you going to do? Say he can only build on a quarter lot? I mean, I'm just
right.
While I think there's truth behind it, I'm not sure how you're going to, redistribute all that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, should you though? I mean, that is the companion question to that.
And let's keep in mind, not everybody wants to mow the lawn. Not everybody wants to shovel the driveway. Yeah. Not everybody wants a golf course for a yard. I mean, people have different wants and needs. Not everybody has kids. I mean, there's no way you can create some one thing. I mean, to me, I just feel that the single family home, and maybe it's just because I'm partial to the nuclear family, and I'm so sad at the destruction of that.
Yeah.
That I yearn for. There was a time, like in my grandparents' generation, and same with you, Jay. We're the same generation. That was the definition of making it. You had your own home and your own car. Didn't matter where it was. I mean, my grandparents lived in South Minneapolis, and they were my grandpa was a World War II vet on my mom's side, and my mom went to Roosevelt High School, and that was making it in 1950.
Yeah.
So, but again, everybody has a different, goalpost of where they want to go in life. So how are you going to create the same housing across? There's no way you can legislate that.
Right.
At the same time, I think saying that, the market, we all know the market is not driving this.
No, the market is not driving this. In fact, they always, what do they always say? Oh, there's a housing shortage. There's a housing shortage. Oh, but when you dig into the numbers, there's often a housing surplus. It's just not the right kind of housing for their plans.
Yeah, exactly. There's a shortage of what they want to do.
Yes.
I mean, and quite frankly, I mean, there hasn't been a housing shortage for a long, long time. It is BS when people say that. But I'll tell you what, they do things that drive up the cost. And let me just say this. I think they create shortages. And let me tell you, the big banks are part to blame for this.
Yeah.
Like I said, the lack of developers, the lack of the coziness they're in with local government also jacks up the price. Because if you only can want to build a certain kind of house, that's who they're going to go with. I drove by in Brooklyn Park recently where they put up all these townhome, blah, blah, somewhere around 109th over there, 101st. And they advertised it as affordable.
Oh.
The average home was nearly $400,000.
Wow.
So if that's affordable,
Yeah.
okay, I mean, you can see, though, what the definition of that really is. Now, here's the other thing, too. This bill would discriminate against the Twin Cities. Listen to this part. Cities in the Twin Cities metropolitan area, I'm assuming that's the 7-county metro, would not be allowed to mandate a minimum lot size of larger than 1/8 of an acre. About the size of a typical lot of Minneapolis and St. Paul. They're pretty small.
They are. Yeah.
You might own more than 1/8 of an acre, Jay.
I'm pretty sure I do.
Yeah.
I have a lot and a half.
Right. I mean, yeah. So, you'd be grandfathered into anything, but the bill would also allow up to 2 housing units on any lot and block cities from mandating minimum home sizes and from requiring certain building materials for aesthetic reasons. In other words, they could not mandate a stucco home or a certain kind of siding.
But yet, if I wanted as well to go build like a 3x5 shack out in the back and call it an additional dwelling unit or whatever, that's okay.
According to this, the city can't stop you from that.
Now, I would say this is my property. I should be able to do what I want with my property. However, when we get into cities saying, okay, for the sake of, homelessness or affordable housing or whatever, right,
but again,
there's some nuances there.
There is, because, the idea you can build something and call it a home, yet you need a permit to put in a new window is pretty ridiculous.
Right.
You want to get your driveway tarred, Jay, you technically have to get a permit for that. You want electrical work done, you're supposed to pull a permit.
Right.
But you can build a shack, move grandma in, and that's it? Is that taxed as a different parcel, too?
Good question.
Because technically, you're creating, quote, another dwelling, as they like to call it. You'd have to hook that up to city water, because, of course,
sewer.
you can't drill on the well that the aquifer that's... A lot of question marks there. I also would throw this out there. That does not necessarily lead to more affordable housing. It's not necessarily affordable to build smaller homes.
Right.
Case in point, this article notes something out in Prior Lake where they built smaller homes on smaller sized lots a year ago.
Yes.
And the cheapest went for $580,000.
Oh, my goodness. You're kidding me.
No. It did nothing to create affordable housing. Now, the city is blaming developers, although I don't fully believe that. We received no requests from This is the, who's this dude? The city manager of Prior Lake, Jason Waddell.
Huh.
As a city, we received no requests from developers to build entry-level homes because they continue to sell homes at a high price range. So no one wanted to build entry-level homes there. I don't know how well how much they looked. So I think it's How do I put this? When you look at something like I said, I don't think the state here is all wrong. But their solutions couldn't be more knuckleheaded, in my opinion. So, how, Jay, do we remedy this? Here's my thought. First off, there's so many factors into housing.
Yes.
From cost to marketplace to interest rates. Yeah. I mean, I don't know how you're going to, and nothing government has done has created property more affordable.
No.
Absolutely not a thing. So, what in tarnation, as Uncle Jesse would say? I mean, how do you move forward here? How do you, because I think things like this are going to happen. Because I think with HUD grants, cities are going to jump to them. I think the state of Minnesota is going to pass something in the future.
Yeah.
Some sort of Minneapolis style thing where you can build a duplex anywhere. I do think that's coming. We all have seen how things in Minneapolis have crept out to the suburbs, whether that's crime, whether that's transit, whether that's, the get rid of the police. I mean, we've seen those. Oh, we saw it with Tobacco 21. We saw it with masks. I mean, the big left-wing cities are going to do this stuff. And it's only a matter of time before the St. Louis Parks of the world try their hand at the same thing.
Absolutely.
So where does this go from here? I mean, are we going to have little duplexes everywhere? Are we going to have nothing but McMansions get built? Are we going to continue down this path? And how the hell do we get out of it?
That's a great question, and I don't know if any of us have the answer to that because the cities do set up the zoning the way that they want it to be. And it's strange. I mean, we talk about the McMansions, but at the same time, you'll own nothing and be happy. And it seems like those are two different, statements, two different points of view. But I think right now, I mean, keeping people in the city, bringing people into the city, they're really willing to do anything. And we've seen that they're not afraid to tear something down and build something else whenever it suits them. So, if people start losing their jobs, losing homes, whatever,
But it doesn't seem to slow down the rethinking. No one rethinks how we got there. I mean, think about it like this, Jay. Go back to 10 or even longer. Go back 20 years ago, 2008, when we had the housing bubble. Okay, we're at the same point right now.
Right.
We're close to where we were then, I think. Some people are predicting a housing crash. I don't know about that, because the job market is I don't think people are at risk of getting laid off like they were then.
No, but you have a whole not a generation, almost, of people that aren't working on purpose,
There's some of that too. But, as long as mom lets them live on the couch.
Yeah. If that's what's happening during COVID, there was a whole lot of, you don't have to pay rent, you don't have to do this or that.
I would argue we're still in that because landlords are still having trouble enforcing that stuff.
Here's a question, and I think I know the answer, but I'd like to hear where you're coming from on it. Cities there's really only one. Houston has no zoning laws.
Yeah.
You can build whatever you want, wherever you want. Seems to work for them. And so in an opening of zoning laws and allowing certain things to be built wherever here, how is that different? And how do you see that? Or do you not like Houston's approach?
Well, I don't know. Allowing anything to be built anywhere. I mean, here's the problem with that. Okay. You live in a neighborhood. Okay, and you have your commercial property, you have your mall, you have your school, blah, blah, blah. the idea that you're going to build anything anywhere. I like neighborhoods with character.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how to explain it, but I just kind of like every city being a little different. That you look at some cities and there's character everywhere. Mm-hmm. And I think allowing anything to be built at some point will take away the character of that city or that neighborhood.
But is character government's job?
Is it government's job? How many cities promote their neighborhoods and promote National Night Out, promote their neighborhood school and all that crap. Well, if you don't have a neighborhood anymore, you don't. I mean, I wasn't aware that Houston, by the way, had no zoning laws. So I know it's a tough one. I mean, again, part of me says local control, and part of me says absolute local control can really be a disaster if the wrong people are in charge.
Well, and that's it. I mean, if you have a place where there are no zoning laws, people, are free to build based on ownership of the land. In this scenario that we're talking about, you really have a government mandating, well, in this example, in this instance, here's what we're going to allow. And, somebody can't go in and build a really big house in Minneapolis. You can't buy 2 lots, tear the houses down, and build a big house. No, you could build a fourplex. You can make it more high dense.
Right, that's
high density.
That's what it's designed to do.
Right, but you can't make it less dense. That it's not a free for all. It's very they make it look like that, like it's property rights and this and that, but really they are it's designed
opposing diversity.
Yeah.
Well, what do you think about Houston?
I mean, from what I've read, it seems to work. It's like, well,
So do they still zone commercial, or do they still zone?
I don't think so. I mean, I remember reading some articles, and people are always scared. Oh, you're going to build an amusement park next to my house, and well, no. I mean, it just doesn't seem.
You'd have to own a square block to do something like that,
right? But it just doesn't seem to happen. So
I'd like to see that on a smaller scale and see how that works. Because, I mean, like, one of the things that worries me about something like that is what happens to the suburbs. Because big cities are one thing. But, do you want a suburb? Take a fully developed... I live in Plymouth, okay?
Right.
Take a fully developed suburb like that and say, okay, you can build anything you want to.
Yes.
Well, are you still a suburb? Are you urbanizing it? Are you, I want to build something, tear the house down and put up a big garden? I mean, what?
But the cities, if they don't have the infrastructure for,
they still have to hand out permits and stuff. I mean, so I guess there is some oversight. I don't know.
I mean, if you don't have the infrastructure to support high density, I don't think you're going to have a lot of people building apartment buildings and stuff out
well, I think another thing would be you would have to have something in the neighborhood. I mean, the developers would have to see. I worry about the collusion too.
Yeah.
Of the lack of but the council having a cozy public-private partnerships. I mean, who's to say? I mean, let me throw out a scenario. Let's say Plymouth had no zoning laws.
Yeah.
Could the city and a developer get together, buy out a bunch of houses, and put something else somewhere?
But then you have the government getting involved again. You know what I mean?
Right, but again, there's no zoning laws, meaning there's no, hey, no, whoa, this is a residential neighborhood here. You can't tear down 40 houses. It's hard to rezone something. Where's the end of that? I mean, I don't know.
Here's what they say. Did a quick check on this. The city of Houston does not have zoning, but development is governed by ordinance codes that address how property can be subdivided. The city codes do not address land use.
Okay.
And that is directly from Houston's website.
So explain that in English, Jay.
So it goes on to say that, like, there's a department and they check subdivision plats for the proper subdivision of land, and for adequate street or right-of-way building lines, and for compliance with the city's land development ordinance. So basically, you still have to be able to handle adequate parking and right-of-way. You have to have water and sewer. They do have regulations for parking, for tree and shrub requirements, for setbacks, access, things like that. So it's not like it's a total hands-off approach, have at it, and it looks like, a bowl of spaghetti. It's not like that, but it looks like they really don't determine what you build as long as the infrastructure is there for it.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I'd like to see a undeveloped city try this.
Yeah.
Let's, like, you got cities, I don't want to name it because I really don't know. Say you got a city that's kind of half developed.
Yeah.
Tell the other half, all right,
so like Maple Grove, or are they a little over half?
Yeah,
maybe?
They're more than half.
Yeah.
Maybe you'd have to go out in Sherburne County or somewhere
Yeah.
out there. Okay. We don't care about the other half. You build what you want over there.
Right.
As long as you're got the water and sewer, and as long as you're, which everything would have to be in compliance with code anyway.
Right.
Setbacks and you're X amount of feet off the street and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And you don't tear down X amount of trees or whatever.
Yeah.
You just go build what you want. That's what I'd like to see, because I'd like to see it organically happen.
Yeah.
I think a city like Houston that's fully developed, like I said, I don't know that you're going to see big change anyway.
Right. But I think the difference between Houston and Minneapolis is you're allowed to do whatever the free market requires. In Minneapolis, it's like, no, we're pushing this solution.
Right, they're limiting your what you can do. You can, like you said, you can put a duplex there, but you can't buy 2 lots and make it 1.
Right.
So that is a big difference. And I think the Minneapolis approach is what people are really after. I see that creeping into Seattle, to Portland, to Chicago, to New York, to all the big city dumps. I see that LA. I can see that really happening much more than I can see the scenario you're laying out, where it's like, okay, we're not going to tell you what you can and can't do, but we're not going to put a limit on it, plus or minus. And I just don't see that. I don't see that happening. I see the opposite happening. And I'll tell you what, cities are greedy. They'll go after that free money.
Yeah.
And you look for these HUD grants somewhere. I'm going to tell you, you're going to creep it. It may not be happening now, but once one city gets something for free, the next city will want it, and the next city will want it. How do we do it? Like I said, New Hope, greatest example. We're going to grade our city manager partly on how much free money he brings our city. I mean, they openly say it.
Yeah.
Just insanity. I don't know. You're intriguing me with this no zoning stuff.
Yeah, I think it's intriguing as well. I would like to see it in action.
You know what I'd also like to see? I'd also like to see restrictions ending on businesses out of your home. I mean, there's a lot of red tape to doing a business out of your home. And I was maybe hoping COVID would spark some changes in that, and it really hasn't on a local level. But you know what? If we're going to we're going to save the environment, Jay, by having people work from home and not drive. But I mean, let's make it easier to work out of your home then, to have a home-based business. But there's a lot of, depending on what you're doing, there's a lot of red tape to working out of your house.
Yeah.
And so maybe that needs to go along with the zoning.
Well, I think so. If you run a massage therapy
That's one
place,
very much one example.
Oftentimes you need to pay to have your own background check done. You have to pay to have yourself investigated to make sure that it's an up and up establishment.
A lot of daycares are like that.
Yeah.
They go through surprise inspections that they pay for, just like alcohol compliance checks. They don't do those, but I mean, there's a lot of some are restricted how many kids they can have.
Yeah.
I mean, their operation of hours can be restricted. Some people work at night.
It's true.
I mean, some people work second shift. And some cities don't allow you to operate a business after a certain time out of your home. If you had a commercial property, you could stay open. The bar down the street can be open till 2:00.
Yes.
So I mean, there's definitely things that can change there. I mean, if you're gonna say, I mean, how can you say on the one hand, we don't care what you build, but we're going to regulate everything about it?
I know.
I mean, then that isn't no zoning. So,
Yeah.
But you know what? I wonder how many people would build a duplex on their own house. I mean, I just wonder if that's really, unless they're incentivized somehow.
Right. Well, government's not beyond that when they want something.
It's true. I'll tell you what, if you want grandma moving in, can't she just have the basement? I mean, seriously.
Yeah, I don't know.
Build a tree house for the kids. Okay,
Yes.
I mean,
There you go.
like Home Alone. I mean, just build. They can keep their nudie magazines up there. Just do something. It doesn't. Why does it have to be a dwelling with more? I mean, it's just. I don't know. I just am very fearful of losing local control, even though I don't like what a lot of locals are doing. It's easier to get rid of a councilman than it is to get rid of a congressman.
Absolutely.
So watch this in your area, folks. I mean, watch how they zone things, and watch for the little, I call them New Hope style nuances, where they change the requirements of what medium density or high density is.
Yeah.
New Hope did that a number of years ago.
Absolutely.
We caught them on the blog where they something used to be high density. They then called it medium density, following the trend, as they say. I mean, there's a lot of bad things your local governments do, and you got to stay on top of them. But look, I just, once you establish something, it's hard to get rid of it. And if zoning laws go away by force, okay, or they're legislated out, there's going to be consequences to that.
Yeah.
For everybody. So, again, Houston may be a city to study and continue to see what happens. Something can work for now and not work later. Something, I don't know. But I think it's pretty scary to have the state and federal government come in and require a lot size or a minimum. And I'd like to know this spankulera here in Minnesota. Why is it that only the cities in the Twin Cities? Aren't the other cities in the state racist too? I mean, why is it only in the 7-county metro?
Well, we know they are. I mean, we've heard about how racist St. Cloud is.
Well, but I mean, you have huge cities
Duluth.
like St. Cloud, Rochester, Duluth.
Yeah.
These are large cities. Why are they subject to these laws? How come they can have white neighborhoods?
Yeah. Well, I mean,
Or McMansions.
when you look at the ratios of of white to non-white
Exactly.
people. There's just not enough
Exactly.
to
There
manage that.
Yeah, there aren't any black people up in Aiken or up in Warroad, so we're not gonna.
There's a couple.
There's like 3. So, I mean, not really. Let's just be honest. Native Americans are the biggest minority up in northern Minnesota.
A lot of Hispanics get up that way too.
Do they?
Yeah, it depends where.
Huh.
Yeah, depends where.
I'm gonna have to look for that next time I'm up. I don't. Usually it's the natives that I see, but I hang around Mille Lacs a lot, and maybe that's why.
Yeah, I mean, you got the res right there.
Yeah, I mean, and you go up to like Red Lake or something like that. But maybe I'm being politically incorrect when I say that, Jay.
I don't know.
I mean, I don't see your Cherokee I don't see them over there.
No, that's because we're from the southern. I was going to say parts unknown, but no, we're from the southern part.
You're from the Trail of Tears. That's where you guys are from.
Yep. From Kentucky and Tennessee all the way over to Oklahoma.
That's right. Kentucky and Tennessee. I've been through there. In fact, I spent a night in Kentucky one time.
Uh-huh.
And I asked the guy at the counter, I said, I need a drink. That was a long drive.
You were in a dry county.
I was in a dry county.
Yeah.
And I didn't know those existed.
Oh, yeah. They still exist in Kentucky.
Now, who put those? Were they the moonshiners? Were they only the moonshiners can do that stuff then?
Right.
I was in a dry. I don't remember where it was. I don't remember.
I wonder
where I
because my grandma lived in a dry county.
It was on the western part of Kentucky.
Okay.
That's the
This was central Kentucky, Danville County.
Maybe I wasn't as far. I know I went through Indianapolis and I went south. I did go through Nashville or around it. I wish I could
missed out
remember.
going around Nashville. You didn't get to the Dukes of Hazzard Museum.
No, I mean that's something I do have a desire to do that someday. And the Grand Ole Opry is something I'd like to see as well.
Yeah,
but I would have liked to see the old building.
Yeah,
that's what I would have really liked to see. So it's along with some Civil War sites that are on my Shiloh is one I really want to go to.
Yeah.
So but I was in a dry county. And let me tell you something. I had a long drive. I needed my cheap gin, and I couldn't get it, and I was extra cranky. Just extra cranky. I think I had something in my bag, if I remember right. Little nipping stuff. Some Drambuie or something. I had something. I had something. 500 miles or whatever is a long time to drive. In fact, I think it was more than that. I think I went from Minneapolis to Kentucky that day.
Yeah, my longest day ever was from Minneapolis to just south of Georgia, or south of Atlanta.
Wow. Now, Atlanta was where I was going. It took me 2 days to get there.
I did it in one.
Wow. That had to be a good 18 hours, maybe 20 hours.
Yeah. So, yeah, getting from here to Grandma's house, that was just normal. But yeah, that's a long day though too. You know, you expect to get there and it's already past dinner time. Oh, that's
holy smoke.
Yeah.
You know, I'll tell you this much. I'm so intrigued by the American South.
Yes.
But I'm so sad at how they're losing their identity.
Yeah.
You know, it's
really just all becoming a Luke Bryan song, and I don't know.
He's country, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. But that's not real country.
No, it's
that's
not
the problem.
at all.
It's not real country.
No.
It's to me, real country is, Hank Williams Sr.
Yes. Even Junior.
I love Junior too.
Yeah.
And I love Garth Brooks, and I love some of the country I grew up with. But from the 90s, after that, it became Taylor Swift-ish. And that's what I didn't like.
Yeah.
I have a friend of mine who calls it suburban country. It's suburban country.
Yeah.
He goes, you're not supposed to like this music. The winos in small towns, that's who listen to this. I think of country music, I think of the Dukes of Hazzard.
Yeah.
That's what I think of. I don't think of Target Field in a concert. That's
right.
just me. But all right, Jay.
Yeah.
We've done it again.
We did something.
It is time for your words of wisdom. It's time for you to do your Robert Tilton, your Oral Roberts, Jimmy Baker, Pat Robertson, all rolled into one, ladies and gentlemen. Except it's not. You're not going to have to break out your checkbook to listen.
But you could.
You could.
I won't turn that down.
If you have it, no, I won't. I won't do my Robert Tilton. Styling and profiling, jet flying, limousine riding, wheeling dealing, son of a gun. Ladies and gentlemen, Community Solutions Minnesota presents the king of sting, the master of disaster, with the sign-off sermon, SOS. Ladies and gentlemen, Jason Bradley, take it away.
Thank you, Andrew. I was going to say, if my own organization is going to start preventing me, then I don't know what I'm doing here anymore.
Don't tempt me.
Oh, mercy me. I tell you what. We have our work cut out for us here in Minnesota. We got our work cut out for us all across this nation because we've got these people in local government that have a mindset of big government, and they're willing to use whatever the state or federal government is willing to do to pull them along into all of this craziness like we're talking about today, where they really want to drive an objective. And this is part of the problem, right? I mean, here in America, we believe in liberty for all. We believe in freedom. But we have these people that have their mind set on forcing the kind of change they want to see because they can't handle freedom. They can't handle somebody making their own decisions. Now, the decisions have to be made for them, and then we have to make it feel like they're choosing it. Have to make it feel free. But we're going to use government pressure. We're going to use societal pressure. And by sandwiching people in between that, those two opposing forces, we'll get them. We'll turn them around. That's what they say. Now, I happen to believe differently, that there are enough of us out there that believe in the principles of freedom and in doing the right thing and being full of integrity that we would never bow to that kind of thing. But we're facing some pretty deep pockets, facing some pretty powerful people. The one advantage we got right now is we're flying below the radar. We're coming up and we're able to really take a hold of as many seats as we can and make ourselves heard by this government because they do not listen. We don't have to sit and take cues from them. No, instead, what we need to do is just stay the course. This government wants to rule and reign unequivocally, to be able to tell us what to do, when to do it. That is why we need you. That is why we need you to step up. That is why we need you to say, I've had enough. Because this isn't American at all. What's being introduced into our country in government is not an American concept. No, we have never been one that has ruled and reigned through despotism, but rather governed by the precepts of the Constitution, where all men are equal, all men are free. Doesn't matter your race, doesn't matter where you come from, doesn't matter what your education level is. Everybody's got a shot. So if you want to see that restored, we have to stand. It is time that we stand, and we stand tall, because we are running out of time. So if you want to get in the fight, if you want to start making some changes, get a hold of us, COMMsolutionsMN@gmail.com. That is COMMsolutionsMN@gmail.com. And let's band together, and let's work hard, and let's win. Because without the ability to govern, we don't have a thing. So we're here with you. And we love you, Minnesota. But now it's your turn to get to work.
Take my life, caught a break between the lines. Don't let me be. If I get too caught up